Imagine you are standing in the middle of a burning house, and you have exactly 10 seconds to leave. In those 10 seconds, you don't think about your social status, your unread emails, or your 5-year plan. You don't care about what your neighbors think of your outfit, or whether your LinkedIn profile looks professional. You grab the one thing that matters, and you run into the night. That moment of absolute terror is actually the most honest moment of your entire life. For the first time, the noise has been silenced by the signal of survival. Most of you are living in houses that are slowly smoldering, but because there is no roaring fire, you stay inside. You are suffocating on the smoke of comfortable mediocrity and safety. You think that having something to protect is your strength, but it is actually your cage. The most dangerous person on this planet is not the man with $1 billion. It is the man who has just lost his last cent. When you have nothing left to lose, you finally have the freedom to gain everything. I know what it feels like to be kicked out of the kingdom you built with your own hands. I know the silence of a room when the phones stop ringing and the friends disappear. People look at a collapse as a tragedy, but I want you to look at it as a system format. When a computer is cluttered with old, buggy software and fragmented files, it slows down. You can try to optimize it, you can try to clean it, but eventually, you just need to wipe the drive. Rebuilding your life from zero is not a failure, it is a hard reboot. Look at the battery icon on your phone when it hits 1% and turns red. Suddenly, your behavior changes instantly. You dim the screen, you close the background apps, and you stop wasting energy on nonsense. You become hyper-focused on the only thing that matters, staying alive. Why do you need to hit 1% to start treating your life with that level of respect? Why do you wait for a crisis to start acting like a visionary? The world tells you that you need a safety net, but a safety net is just a spiderweb that keeps you stuck. The elite don't seek security, they seek utility. If you are sitting in the ruins of your life right now, I want to congratulate you. The dead wood has finally burned away, and for the first time, the ground is clear. You are no longer a manager of a mess. You are now an architect of a void. Most people spend their energy trying to patch up a broken life because they are afraid of the empty space. But innovation requires empty space. You cannot build a cathedral on top of a junkyard. You must clear the site, even if the clearing is painful. Taking full ownership of the ruins is the first code you must write. Don't tell me about the economy, the betrayal, or the bad luck. If you blame the wind for your ship sinking, you are admitting that you aren't the captain. I want you to be the captain of a sinking ship who decides to build a submarine. Ownership is the password that unlocks the next level of the simulation. The moment you say this is my fault, you are simultaneously saying this is in my control. Average people hate that trade because they love the comfort of being a victim. Victims don't have to work. They just have to complain and wait for a rescue that never comes. But you are not a victim. You are a developer who found a fatal bug in the program. Now, you are going to rewrite the kernel. Ownership means you stop waiting for permission to start again. The world doesn't give permission to the broken. It only gives orders. If you want to stop taking orders, you must start giving yourself directives. Look at the people who changed history. They didn't start with resources. They started with resentment for the status quo and a refusal to be average. They realized that zero is a very powerful coordinate. From zero, every single move you make is an increase. From zero, you can't fall any further, so you might as well sprint. Most of you are hovering at 50%, afraid to fall and afraid to climb. That hovering is what kills your soul. It is a low-power state that produces low-power results. I am telling you to embrace the 1%. Accept that the old version of you is obsolete and non-supported. The legacy version of your life had too many bugs. It was compatible with the wrong people and the wrong habits. Now, the new OS is ready for installation, but it requires a clean drive. Don't try to copy-paste your old friends into your new life. Don't try to recover the habits that made you crash in the first place. Let the past be a read-only file that you study for errors, but your present must be a blank canvas. This is the hard truth of the rebuild. It's not about motivation. It's about resource allocation. You have a limited amount of cognitive RAM left. Are you going to spend it on regret, or are you going to spend it on design? If you are still blaming your ex, your boss, or your parents, you are wasting power. Shut down those background tasks immediately. Focus all your processing power on the next line of code. You don't need a rich uncle. You need a brutal mirror. Look into it and say, I am the reason I am here, and I am the only reason I will leave. That is the hook that pulls you out of the abyss. It's not positive thinking, it's extreme reality. Once you accept the reality of zero, the fear of zero disappears. And once the fear is gone, you become dangerous to the status quo. You become the misfit, the rebel, the troublemaker. You become the person who sees opportunity where others see disaster. The rebuild doesn't start with a plan. It starts with a decision to stop surviving and start defining. Are you ready to delete the old files? Are you ready to initialize the new system? The void is waiting for your input. Let's talk about the hardware of your new life. Let's talk about the environment that will either power you or drain you. The most dangerous lie you've ever been told is that willpower is enough to change your life. Willpower is like a phone battery that starts at 100% in the morning and hits zero by dinner. If you are using that battery to fight your surroundings every second, you have no power left to build. You cannot dry yourself while standing in the middle of a thunderstorm, no matter how hard you try. The rain of your environment is always stronger than the towel of your motivation. If you are trying to rebuild a masterpiece in a junkyard, you will eventually start using junk as your material. Look at the space around you right now and ask, is this a laboratory or is this a waiting room? Most of you are living in waiting rooms filled with the baggage of people who have already given up. You are trying to code a billionaire's vision on a terminal that is infected with everyone else's viruses. The second rule of the rebuild is to become a relentless architect of your physical and digital space. I didn't design the first Mac in a chaotic office filled with average furniture and average people. I created a Zen sanctuary where the only thing that existed was the work and the vision. If your room is a mess, your mind is a fragmented hard drive that can't find the save file. Clean the hardware of your life before you try to update the software of your goals. Throw away the physical trash that reminds you of your failures and your old version. But the physical clutter is only the surface of the problem. The real noise is human. Most of you are leaking energy because you are surrounded by emotional vampires. These are the people who call you friend but only talk to you about why things are impossible. They are the B players who are terrified that you might actually become an E player. If you stay in that network, you will eventually synchronize with their frequency. In nature, 2 clocks on a wall will eventually start ticking in the same rhythm through entrainment. If your clocks are set to your mediocrity, you will never tick at the speed of light. You must be willing to unsubscribe from people who no longer serve the masterpiece you are building. And yes, it is uncomfortable and people will call you arrogant or cold. Let them. They are just background noise in a movie they didn't write. I have always been accused of being difficult, but difficult is just what people call a high standard. If you don't have a high standard for your environment, you are accepting low results by default. Change your input immediately, the books you read, the videos you watch, the voices you hear. If you are scrolling through reels of people complaining, you are formatting your brain for failure. You are training your dopamine receptors to respond to cheap thrills instead of deep wins. Your phone is the remote control of your life. Who is currently holding that remote? If it's an algorithm designed to keep you engaged but unproductive, you are a slave. Take the remote back and program your own feed with high-density information. Surround yourself with virtual mentors who make you feel small but capable. If you are the smartest or most ambitious person in your room, you are in the wrong room. Find a room that makes you uncomfortable because of the excellence it demands. Look at Michael Phelps. He didn't win because he felt like a champion every day. He won because his environment made it impossible to be anything else. The pool didn't care about his feelings. The water only cared about his form. Create a routine that acts like gravity. It should pull you toward work without effort. If you have to think about starting, you have already lost the momentum. The system should start before your ego has a chance to make an excuse. This is why I wore the same outfit every single day. Didn't want to waste RAM on a trivial choice. I wanted every ounce of power focused on the product and the vision. Look at your digital environment. Is it a toolbox or a casino? Most of you are living in a digital casino designed to make you lose your time. Delete the apps that are stealing your future one like at a time. They are micro-traps that prevent you from reaching the deep state of creation. If you want to rebuild, you need silence. The kind of silence that screams for an answer. Go to a cafe where no one knows your name and leave your notifications at the door. Build a fortress of solitude where your intuition can finally be heard over the noise. Your environment is a mirror of yourself. If you live in chaos, you are telling the universe that your life is a draft. But if you live in order, you are telling the universe that your life is a final version. Rebuilding is not about adding more things. It's about subtracting the wrong things. Subtract the negative friends. Subtract the useless subscriptions. subtract the visual clutter. When you empty the room, you create a vacuum for opportunity. An opportunity hates a crowded space. It seeks the empty vessel that is ready to be filled with new code. Most of you are too full of old garbage to receive new gold. Empty the trash bin of your life today. Don't wait for Monday or a sign from the heavens. The sign is the red icon on your 1% battery. It is the silence of your empty bank account. It is the pain of being passed over for the 10th time. Use that pain to demolish your current environment. Be ruthless with your boundaries. If it doesn't power the mission, it is static, and static is the enemy of the architect. Now that the sight is clear, we need to talk about focus. We need to talk about why everything is the enemy of the one thing. Most of you are failing to rebuild your life because you are trying to fix too many things at once. You want the body of an athlete, the bank account of a mogul, and the social life of a movie star by next Tuesday. You are opening 30 different tabs in your mental browser and wondering why your system is freezing. When you try to go in every direction, you end up standing exactly where you started. The secret to the great return is not expansion. It is brutal, surgical contraction. When I returned to Apple in 1997, we were 3 months away from total bankruptcy. The engineers were working on 350 different products, trying to please everyone and pleasing no one. I looked at the roadmap and I saw a smorgasbord of mediocrity. I didn't tell them to work harder or do more. I took a marker, drew a grid on a whiteboard, and said, "We are doing 4 things." People panicked. They thought I was crazy for throwing away opportunity. But opportunity is a distraction if it doesn't align with your core priority. The third rule of the rebuild is the tyranny of the singular. You must pick one single front in the war for your life and pour every ounce of your napalm onto it. If you have nothing left, your only job is to build one bridge back to the mainland. Stop trying to learn 5 languages, start 2 businesses, and get a 6-pack in the same month. Your willpower is a finite currency, and you are currently bankrupt. You cannot afford to invest in a diversified portfolio of goals right now. You need a high-risk, high-concentration bet on the one thing that moves the needle. What is the one skill or one project that makes everything else easier or unnecessary? If you are broke, your one thing is income generation, not gym motivation. If you are sick, your one thing is physical recovery, not social networking. Most of you use multitasking as a shield to protect you from the fear of actually finishing something. It feels productive to be busy with 10 different shallow tasks, but shallow work is just procrastination in a suit and tie. Deep work on one task is terrifying because it exposes your true ability. If you focus on one thing and you fail, you have no excuses left. But if you focus on 10 things and you fail, you can blame burnout or bad timing. Stop giving yourself escape hatches and start burning the boats. Look at Jeff Bezos in the early days of Amazon. He didn't try to be the everything store on day one. He focused obsessively on books, and he mastered the supply chain for that one niche. He built a foundation of excellence on a small patch of ground. Only after the foundation was solid did he dare to look at the next step. Most of you are trying to build the roof before you've even dug the hole for the basement. The players of 2026 are monomaniacs with a mission. They're the people who are willing to be ignorant about 99% of the world, to be world-class at 1%. The world will try to shame you for your lack of balance. They will tell you that you are obsessed or neglecting other areas. Let them. Balance is for people who have already arrived. Obsession is for people who are still in the trench. If you are at zero, you don't have the luxury of balance. You need extreme asymmetry to break the gravity of failure. Think of a rocket leaving the atmosphere. It doesn't use 10% of its fuel. It uses 90% of its energy just to get off the ground. Once you are in orbit, you can coast with small adjustments. But right now, you are on the launch pad, and you need total thrust. Pick your grid on the whiteboard of your life. Delete every app that isn't part of that grid. Say no to every coffee meeting that doesn't feed that grid. Ignore the news, the trends, and the politics that are off-grid. You are a laser, not a light bulb. A light bulb glows and illuminates a living room. A laser cuts through steel and diamonds. Which one are you going to be? The light bulb is safe and comfortable, but it doesn't change the shape of reality. The laser is dangerous and intense, and it leaves a mark. Rebuilding your life is about cutting through the resistance. You cannot cut if you are spread thin. The singularity of purpose is your sharpening stone. It makes your intent so pointed that the world has to yield. Every morning, ask yourself, what is the one move that makes today a win? If you do that one move, the day is a success, even if everything else crashes. Most of you negotiate with your task list and trade the hard wins for easy tasks. Stop trading your future for small dopamine hits. Commit to the monotask. Become comfortable with boredom of repetition. Mastery is just excellence repeated until it becomes automatic. You don't need a new strategy every week. You need a consistent execution of the same strategy. If you can't focus on one thing for an hour, you can't rebuild a life for a decade. The rebuild starts with the death of the many. It starts with the birth of the one. Are you ready to execute the unnecessary? Are you ready to ignore the noise to hear the signal? The void is getting loud. Let's talk about the friction that comes next. Most of you have a biological allergy to the feeling of being uncomfortable. You treat stress as a warning sign to stop, instead of a confirmation that you are growing. You seek out the path of least resistance because your brain is wired for survival, not for greatness. But survival is the standard mode of the average. Greatness is an intentional malfunction. The fourth rule of the rebuild is to fall in love with the aesthetics of discomfort. You must stop seeing pain as an error in the system and start seeing it as the heat of the forge. If you are rebuilding your life from zero, it is supposed to feel like a crash test. It is supposed to be cold, it is supposed to be hard, and it is supposed to be lonely. If it feels easy, you are just rearranging the furniture in the same burning house. I have always pushed my teams to the point of emotional exhaustion, not because I was cruel. I did it because the best work only happens when you move past what you thought was possible. When your mind says I can't, that is the interface of your old limitations. If you turn back there, you are just updating your old life with the same bugs. You must force the system to stay online even when the heat sensors are screaming. Look at the most iconic products I ever shipped. They were born from unreasonable pressure. The engineers wanted to quit. The designers wanted to scream, and the world said I was insane. But insanity is just the word reasonable people use for high-resolution ambition. Most of you are soft, because you have optimized your life for convenience. You have an app for your hunger, a remote for your entertainment, and an excuse for your failure. Convenience is a shadow tax on your soul that makes you weak and complacent. When you have nothing left, you finally have the luxury of hardship. You can afford to be cold, you can afford to be hungry, and you can afford to be tired. These are the raw materials of a resilient identity. If you can handle the discomfort of a 16-hour workday, you are immunized against the fear of poverty. If you can handle the discomfort of being laughed at, you are immunized against the fear of judgment. Rebuilding your life is a stress test for your character architecture. Most people have brittle characters that shatter the moment the reality gets heavy. You want to build a carbon fiber, spirit-light, flexible, but unbreakable under load. This requires daily microdoses of voluntary suffering. Do the hardest task first when your cognitive battery is at its peak. Have the uncomfortable conversation that you have been archiving for months. Wake up before the world starts demanding your attention. When you seek discomfort, you take the power away from it. If the world imposes pain on you, you are a victim. But if you choose the pain, you are a warrior. It is the same sensation, but the context changes everything. Look at David Goggins. He didn't just endure the pain, he interrogated it. He used it as a GPS to find the weak spots in his own mental code. Most of you are blind to your own weaknesses because you are always numbing the symptoms. You scroll to avoid the boredom, you eat to avoid the stress, and you sleep to avoid the reality. Stop numbing the interface. Let the pain of being at zero burn through your ego. Let it strip away the delusions you have about why you haven't succeeded yet. The truth is usually uncomfortable, which is why average people avoid it. But the truth is the only stable ground you can build a new life on. If you build on comfortable lies, the foundation will liquefy at the first crisis. Embrace the friction of the learning curve. When you start a new skill, you will feel stupid and clumsy. That stupidity is the sensation of new neural pathways being burned into your brain. It is the sound of progress. Most of you quit at the first sign of friction because you think you lack talent. But talent is just interest that survived the valley of discomfort. The up-layers are the ones who can stay in the valley the longest without crying. They have a high threshold for cognitive dissonance. They can hold the vision of perfection in one hand and the reality of failure in the other. And they use the tension between the two to propel themselves forward. The rebuild is a surgical procedure on your own will. There is no anesthesia for personal transformation. You must be awake for the cutting. You must watch the old habits being You must feel the new standard being sutured into your identity. This is the price of the second act. If you aren't willing to pay in discomfort, you will pay in regret. and regret is a much heavier burden to carry for 40 years. Discomfort is temporary, but mediocrity is permanent. Choose your discomfort with exquisite taste. Choose the pain of discipline over the pain of disgrace. The world will try to seduce you back into the warm bath of the ordinary. It will tell you to take it easy and be kind to yourself. But being kind to your old version is a betrayal of your new version. The new you requires a brutal midwife. The void is cold, but it is clean. Let's talk about the energy leaks that are draining your power. Let's talk about the digital surgery you need to perform. Most of you are trying to build a nuclear reactor while your pipes are leaking from 1,000 tiny holes. You complain that you don't have enough time, but the truth is, you don't have enough energy. Time is a fixed resource, but energy is a variable that you are currently mismanaging. If you are at zero, you are in a power deficit, and you must become a dictator of your own attention. The fifth rule of the rebuild is to perform a brutal energy audit on every person, habit, and digital signal in your life. You must look at your daily routine as a system monitor and find the processes that are consuming 90% of your RAM. Most people are energy donors to a world that doesn't care about their masterpiece. They give their focus to the news, their emotion to social media arguments, and their time to beep layers. If you are rebuilding, you cannot afford to be generous with your focus. You must become selfish to the point of arrogance until your foundation is solid. Look at the people you spend your minutes with. Are they radiators or are they drains? A radiator gives you heat and light. A drain just pulls you into the sewer of their own insecurity. If someone doesn't believe in your rebuild, they are a virus in your operating system. You don't need to argue with them or explain your vision. You just need to delete them. I have always been ruthless about who I allowed into my inner circle. I didn't want yes men. I wanted high-frequency thinkers who pushed the standard higher. Your environment is a filter for your potential. If the filter is clogged with negative noise, your output will be polluted. Look at your digital consumption. Is it nutritious or is it mental junk food? Most of you are obese on information but starving for wisdom. You watch success porn instead of actually executing a success strategy. You are numbing the pain of zero with infinite scrolling. That scroll is a leaking valve that is draining your creative pressure. Without pressure, you cannot innovate. Without pressure, you cannot rebuild. Kobe Bryant didn't have more hours in the day. He just had fewer distractions. He optimized his hardware by cutting out the party scene and the fame games. He understood that excellence requires a closed loop. You must seal your life against leaks. Stop announcing your plans to the world. It gives you a fake dopamine hit of achievement. When you tell someone I'm going to change my life, your brain thinks you've already done it. Then, the motivation disappears because the story has been told. Keep your rebuild a secret until the results are too loud to ignore. Work in the shadows where the energy is concentrated. Audit your physical health. If you are feeding your body garbage, your brain will produce garbage. You cannot think clearly on a crashed system. Rebuilding requires peak performance from your biological hardware. Sleep is not lazy. Sleep is system maintenance. Movement is not exercise. Movement is system calibration. If you treat your body like a rental car, don't be surprised when it breaks. Down on the highway, look at your mental habits. Do you ruminate on the past? Rumination is running a simulation that has already crashed. It is a waste of processing power. The past is read-only. You cannot edit the code. Stop trying to rewrite what happened and start writing what is next. Every time you overthink, you are dropping frames in your future. Be intentional about your silent moments. Most of you are terrified of silence because that's when the truth starts speaking. But silence is the incubator of the elegance. You need to be quiet, enough to hear your intuition. The market is noisy, but the solutions are quiet. Identify the one habit that is killing your productivity and kill it first. Is it the midnight scroll? Is it the morning news? Is it the avoidance call? Execute that habit with extreme prejudice. Once you plug the biggest leak, you will feel a surge of new energy. Use that surge to build the systems of your new life. Don't hope for a better day. Engineer it. An energy audit is not a one-time event. It is a continuous background task. You must monitor your vitals every single day. If you feel drained, find the parasite and remove it. If you feel inspired, find the source and double down on it. You are the seasadmin of your own soul. The world will try to hack you with notifications and trivialities. Install a firewall of deep focus. Protect your power as if your legacy depends on it, because it does. A rebuild is an energy-intensive process. You need every volt of will to cross the chasm. Don't waste a single milliamp on small talk or small people. The void is closing in. Let's talk about the systems that will carry you when the motivation dies. Let's talk about the architecture of consistency. The final secret of the rebuild is that your goals are completely irrelevant. I know that sounds like heresy in a world obsessed with vision boards and manifestation, but if you have a goal to rebuild your life and no system to do it, you are just a dreamer with a headache. A goal is a destination, but a system is the engine that actually moves the car. Most of you are sitting in a broken vehicle, staring at a map of a paradise you will never reach. The sixth rule of the rebuild is to override your reliance on motivation and install simple, brutal systems. Motivation is a sugar high. It feels great for 10 minutes, and then it leaves you crashing and hollow. A system is fiber. It is boring, it is consistent, and it keeps the structure moving forward. When you are at zero, you don't need inspiration. You need automation. You need to make the right choices so easy that you could do them in your sleep. And you need to make the wrong choices so difficult that they require an act of Congress to execute. Look at the way a professional athlete lives. They don't ask, "Do I feel like training today?" The training is a hard-coded process that happens because the clock hits 6 a.m. They have outsourced their willpower to their schedule. If you want to rise from the ashes, you must outsource your life to a repeatable script. Keep the script minimalist. If it is too complex, you will find a bug to exploit. Wake up, drink water, work on the one thing. No exceptions. That is a system that can scale to $1 billion. Check emails, scroll news, think about working, drink coffee, panic. That is a system for permanent mediocrity. Look at James Clear's Philosophia. 1% improvement every day is compound interest for your soul. You don't need a quantum leap. You need a consistent step. Most of you quit because you were looking for the finish line while you were still in the tunnel. The tunnel is where the identity shift happens. In the tunnel, nobody is clapping for you, and the results are invisible. This is where systems save you from your own impatient ego. If your system says write 500 words, and you write them, you have won the day. It doesn't matter if the words are garbage today. The system doesn't care about quality yet. The system only cares about compliance. Once you have compliance, you can optimize the output, but you cannot optimize a zero. I have seen geniuses fail because they were inconsistent, and average people win because they were relentless. Relentlessness is just systems in motion. Look at LeBron. James's system costs $1 million a year in body maintenance. He isn't lucky to be elite at his age. He is engineered to be elite. You must engineer your second act with the same technical precision. Stop negotiating with your alarm clock. Every snooze is a vote for your old version. Stop negotiating with your deep work. Every notification is a corruption of your focus. When the system is running, your mood is secondary data. If you are sad, follow the system. If you are angry, follow the system. If you are bored, follow the system. The players of 2026 are the ones who can execute when the dopamine is gone. They understand that consistency is the only magic that actually works. Rebuilding your life is a long-term project disguised as a series of boring days. Most people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in a year. 1 year of strict systems will make you unrecognizable to the people who knew you at zero. They will call it luck, privilege, or a miracle. You will know it was just small blocks stacked one by one in the dark. Don't look for validation from the outside world. During the rebuild, the world only validates the finished product. It ignores the development phase. Your internal validation must come from following the protocol. Did you audit your energy today? Did you face the discomfort today? Did you protect the singular focus today? If the answer is yes, you are already succeeding, even if the bank account is still red. The reality takes time to render the results. The code is executing, but the screen hasn't updated yet. Don't abort the process just because the loading bar is slow. Trust the mathematics of discipline. The void you are standing in right now is the greatest gift you've ever received. It is a clean slate without the baggage of expectations. You have nothing left, which means you have no more excuses. You are free to be great. You are free to be insane. You are free to be iconic. The rebuild is not a punishment, it is a privilege. Most people die in the comfort of their medium-sized lives. You get the chance to die and be reborn while you are still breathing. Take the chance. Install the system, lock the door, and don't come out until you've changed the world. The hardware is ready. The software is written. The power is on. It's time to initialize. Stay hungry, stay foolish, and for God's sake, ship it. That's the end of the format. Now, Go build your legacy. Thanks for watching. I'll see you at the top.